I've lost my one and only gag in the world. It's a difficult place to win, Pakistan. I've been telling everyone here. Ben Stokes has made it look very, very easy. I mean, that is a magnificent victory. Two very docile pitches, two different pitches. This one spun. They've had to work so hard to pull off those victories. You know, you spare a thought for Pakistan. They were 10 minutes away from getting a draw in the last game. There were 20-odd runs here, and that shows the effort England had to put in. They just didn't walk over Pakistan. They had to put in a real effort. Speaking to Mark Wood there at the end, he was exhausted, emotionally, physically exhausted from this test match. And every captain needs a Mark Wood. Every captain needs someone when you're just in that last chance saloon and the game is drifting away from you and the pitch is absolutely going under, no pace in it at all. You need someone who's small in stature but big in heart. And his Durham teammate Mark Wood just provided that spark either side of lunch. This is one of the most incredible test match victories. What they've done out here, put it in context, 2 test match wins in Pakistan, England ever, 2 in 2 weeks on featherbeds of pitches. Brilliant effort.
Ath, what's impressed you with the leadership of Ben Stokes on this tour?
I think it was based around a clear strategy, one to score quickly, and therefore take time out of the game, if you like, give yourself plenty of time to take those wickets. Nasser rightly mentioned that England have only ever won 2 games here, but they've only ever lost a couple as well. There's been a hellish number of draws. It is just a very difficult place to force a win because the pitches are so flat and so slow, because Pakistan play well in their home conditions. And therefore one part of the strategy was we need to score quickly in order to give ourselves time, and of course in Pindi they took that to the nth degree, scoring between 6 and 7 runs and over. But even here in Multan, that rate is 5 and over and a bit more in the first innings. So that's the first part of the strategy, and fittingly then that the final wickets went to the seamers. That burst from Mark Wood either side of lunch, 3 wickets that Nasser referred to. Ollie Robinson taking the final wicket of the match. Those 3 crackerjack deliveries yesterday from Robinson, Anderson and Wood. They have out-bowled the Pakistan seamers here, and I don't know how often you'd be able to say that in recent years. You know, think of perhaps the generation from Imran Khan onwards. Then you've got Wasim and Waqar, all their great fast bowlers that utilise these hard abrasive conditions so well. But England put faith in their seamers, and their seamers have out-bowled their counterparts here over the 2 test matches. So I think the strategy was clear, and it's been absolutely vindicated by the 2-0 win.
How well did Ben do tactically today, Nas? Because when that partnership was building, it got a little bit nervy.
It did, and it was a difficult one because it did spin, but it started to spin really slowly. I may have given the new ball to 2 seamers because the one difference between this pitch and Rawalpindi were the cracks were definitely there. And the problem for Ben and his team and his bowling attack, and Pakistan were very smart, the cracks bowling from that media end were outside the right-handers off stump, and they sent in 3 left-handers. So even when the new ball was available, the left-handers were in. So he went to spin, he gave it to Root, who bowled quite well this morning actually, Joe Root. But I personally would have gone seam and trying to hit those cracks even with the left-handers. And then Wood, who said to me on interview I wasn't getting my line quite right, and ended up bowling straight and got those couple down the leg side. Then immediately he's got right-handers in, and he media centre end, he brings on Anderson, gets the wicket, he brings on Robinson. They were thrown a curveball, by the way. Abrar came out, because Abrar generally is a bit of a blocker, but Saqlain's pushed him out the door and said we can't just stumble over the line, someone's going to have to go at him. And those 17 just put England on the back foot, but it took that veteran in Jimmy Anderson just to say, no, I've got plenty of wickets, mate, I'm OK, I'll get you. So once they got that, you felt they were just enough, really. They will learn from this, Wardy. You know, they will learn. Brendan McCullum is no fool. He will sit there and he will think about that 73 for 5. Ben Stokes will not say it to Michael Atherton on interview, and he won't say it in the press conference, and he won't say it at the end there, because he wants clear messaging like Morgan's men and that white ball revolution. But they were behind the scenes thinking about if it is a different pitch, if the World Cup in 2019 are on different surfaces, how are we going to change our game? And McCullum will be sitting there and he'll look at his team and say, well done, you got over the line, But just think about that 73 for 5.
But cheer, gents, a question for you two geography supply teachers out there. Ath, you mentioned the word faith before. You two are both former England captains. Have you ever seen or have you ever had as much faith in the players under your charge as Ben Stokes seems to have in each and every one of the guys out there? I'm thinking specifically, I suppose, of the relationship between himself and Jack Leach, but also, you know, in his seamers, in non-seaming conditions, etc., etc. It's been extraordinary the way that he has backed them all.
Well, he's transformed England's Test match team. He's just completely galvanised them with virtually the same players. Think of those players that were in the Ashes and the Caribbean before he took over. It's virtually the same team with one or two little changes. They played the same team throughout the summer. Alex Lees gave way here. But he has transformed and galvanised that outfit. You know, it's just the measure of leadership, really. As I said last week, he's going to be a very significant England captain. He's going to be one of our greatest ever captains by the time he finishes, I think. I can't remember or think of another captain, certainly for England, and I'm trying to think more worldwide, who's had such a dramatic and immediate impact upon taking over. Think where England were. You know, I was stood here, you know, at the end of the Ashes, calling for the heads of the captain and the coach and the director of cricket. England were terrible at the end of that Ashes, and then getting beaten in the Caribbean, and suddenly the whole team has completely transformed and galvanised under different leadership. The combination of Stokes and McCullum, that clear messaging that we've talked about, and that creation of an attitude where it's not the be-all and end-all. It doesn't matter so much if we get beat. We're going to give it a go. What's the McCullum quote? We're going to plan for the future but live for the moment. And that kind of attitude where they're just going to throw themselves into it and give it a damn good go. And suddenly they look a transformed side. It is amazing, really, for those of us who've seen it through that period, how it's changed, and that's down to leadership. Incredible.
The atmosphere and the environment that has been created, and the clear strategy and the definition that has been given to the players from the coach and the captain, that must be a wonderful place to enter if you're a youngster with the talent of Harry Brook, Nas.
Yeah, I think Harry Brook would go into any environment and play pretty well. Just look at what he's done at Yorkshire in the last few years. He's just a run machine. He's not doing anything different from England from what he's done for Yorkshire in all formats. I remember 2 years ago leaving the Oval to go and do a blast game, and Joe Root turned to me and saying, you need to be talking about Harry Brook a little bit more. And Harry Brook, when you get up there and you see he's an incredible talent, then you come on tour, and that's the great thing about going on tour with these lads. And Ath interviewed him the other day, and he just sat down as if he was just having a chat in his pub, to be honest. He doesn't overcomplicate things. He just wants to go out, bat, get runs, and enjoy himself. He loves batting. We did an interview out here.
He's now blushing because he's walking right past us. We're talking about you.
He's a really good player, that Harry Brook. He did an interview this morning, and he was asked about the first innings shot, and he was very honest. He said, I played terrible shot in the first innings, awful shot, and I wanted to put that right second time round. So he's no bluffer. He's not someone who says, you know, that's the way I play. He's just going to go out and say, right, I got that wrong. Second time round, I'll put it right. And you saw there, just walks around with a smile on his face, thumbs up. And the other thing about environments, lads, we've all been there. An environment is always better when you're winning. When you're winning and you're going on this run, that dressing room now, exhausted, Mark Wood, exhausted, but exhausted in a really nice way. That is exhaustion you absolutely love.
One shame of it, as I was talking to Finney in here, Ath, is that the players don't get much of a chance to digest these victories. I mean, that Rawalpindi victory was one of the greatest ever England wins, and then all of a sudden they're in a bus down to Multan and they're off to Karachi, I imagine, tomorrow. It's such a shame that they can't sit there, be together and digest what they've achieved.
Yeah, they give themselves an extra day off here, of course, by winning in 4, so they'll have 4 days before they go to Karachi. And the other thing about this team is they actually kind of leave it all out on the field during the competitive hours of play. They're not actually a team that are too big on over-training in the nets. And by that, I don't mean they don't work hard, because because the day before this game they put in a pretty decent shift, and you do see them practicing, but they don't expend their energy in the nets. That I don't think you'll hear too many of the players in this team give the kind of that age-old excuse that we've all given, you know, I'm hitting them well in the nets. Their attitude is, we're going to give it all in the 6 hours of play and the 5 days of play, and then we're going to actually rest and relax between the games and try and get our bodies right and our minds right. For batters, of course, the game is played in the mind as much as anything, and Finney there will tell you that for the bowlers it's physically. So in between games there'll be a lot of rest and relaxation and enjoyment of the place they're in as far as they can, even though it's quite hard to get out here with security. But then come game time again, they'll be right on it. And I think the way the schedules are at the moment, that has to be the right attitude, because, you know, it's game on, game on, game on, and therefore the short breaks that you do get in between, I don't think you want to be slogging yourselves in the nets either. You want to kind of freshen up and get ready for the competitive game time.
Nasser, just throwing it forward then with that in mind, and having spoken to Mark Wood and heard of how he's feeling, would you sit him out, stand him down for the last Test match, maybe make a change, bring in Atherton, play the leg spinner for Jacks? How are you looking at it, and how much sort of forward planning does there need to be despite this attitude of living for the moment?
I think you just to carry on living for the moment, really. You want to carry on the winning run, you want to carry on that winning feeling. You don't want to end the tour on a negative note in any way with what lies ahead. You look to the future by making sure you win the present. You obviously turn to Mark Wood, who's your, you know, he's gold dust, and you say, are you okay to go again? If he's in any doubt, then you say, no, you rest up, we're going to need you. He may, you know, he's played a quarter of the games he could have played. He could have played something like 125 games, he's played 20 odd. So you got to look after that racehorse that is Mark Wood. So you try and win the game in Karachi with the best 11 players. You don't play Rayan Ahmed just because you want to give him a game. History at the end of Ashes series and Test match series, you play the wrist spinner because you want to give him a game and find out about him. This is playing for England. This is not a call-up for Essex under-11s. You're playing for England in Karachi, one of the great venues, and you want to win a series 3-0. And if you don't mind me just giving a mention as well, and we don't talk about him enough, is Rob Key. You know, Rob Key came in and Ath talked about it. He was the only one we had out in the Ashes, Ath, and that was about the lowest points. We've had a lot of low points in the Ashes, tell me about it. But that was a very low point. And what Rob had to come in and take over in the summer, he keeps himself behind the scenes, Rob Key, but he got those big decisions right. He got the captain right, he got the coach right, and he got the atmosphere right in that dressing room. They've won series at home, they've won a series here.
Enough now.
They've won
Enough about Rob Key now.
I'm strong about this because, you know, when he came in, they said it was about jobs for the boys. Well, that boy's done a pretty good job.